Welcome, rational thinkers and champions of evidence-based reasoning, to the Free of Faith podcast. This is the place where we dare to peel back the comforting but opaque layers of faith-based claims and expose their logical shortcomings. Today, we're tackling a thought-provoking and, frankly, unsettling question. Would a book authored by an actual God lack the content that could have prevented so much innocent suffering? The claim that the Bible is the divinely inspired word of an omnipotent and omniscient being raises high expectations, doesn't it? After all, if we're to take the claim at face value, we would expect a text that is not only clear and profound, but also free from errors, omissions, or ambiguities that might lead to harm. And yet, when we hold the Bible to this standard, what do we find? Silence on critical issues, outdated practices codified into law, and ambiguities that have fueled centuries of suffering. Imagine a book written by a deity who knows everything and loves humanity unconditionally. Surely, this book would have made clear statements against the ownership of human beings. Yet the Bible doesn't just fail to condemn slavery. It provides detailed instructions on how to manage forms of it, perpetuating one of the darkest practices in human history. The Bible's silence here isn't just an oversight, it's a gaping hole that undermines its claim to divine authorship. Think about it. Wouldn't a deity worth worshipping have had the foresight to say, owning another human being is unequivocally wrong? Instead, we see passages that condone slavery, allowing it to fester for centuries under the guise of divine endorsement. The problem doesn't end there. Consider the realm of public health. For most of human history, people were plagued by diseases that could have been mitigated or even prevented by simple hygiene practices. Yet the Bible, a text claiming divine origin, doesn't include something as straightforward as wash your hands with soap to avoid disease. If the Bible were truly the work of an all-knowing and compassionate being, wouldn't it contain practical advice that could save millions of lives? Instead, we see rituals and dietary laws that, while culturally specific, lack the universal, timeless utility one might expect from divine wisdom. Consider this: would a God who possesses the knowledge to eradicate all tormentous childhood diseases not mercifully provide that knowledge to parents who are today weeping over the screams of their dying children? If he cannot himself find time to save those children, isn't making the relevant knowledge available to humans the least he could do? The Bible's omissions extend into its teachings on proper human conduct. Over time, its vague and inconsistent passages have been used to justify some of the worst atrocities in human history, such as crusades, witch hunts, inquisitions, and colonial oppression. When a text can be interpreted to both endorse peace and justify violence, its claim to divine clarity is severely weakened. If the Bible were truly divine, wouldn't its message be unmistakable, cutting through the fog of human interpretation to provide guidance so clear that no one could use it to harm others? Defenders of the Bible often argue that its ambiguities are intentional, designed to provoke thought, or that the silence on certain issues reflects a divine test of humanity's moral progress. But are these explanations persuasive, or are they merely attempts to rationalize the irrational? If faith asks you to excuse these omissions and contradictions, it asks you to sacrifice reason at the altar of dogma. And if we're honest, faith thrives not on evidence or clarity, but on the willingness to suspend critical thinking. This isn't just a theoretical problem, it's a deeply practical one. The Bible's lack of clear guidance on universal human rights has allowed entire societies to claim divine authority while oppressing others. If this book were written by a God, it would contain principles so transformative that no culture could misinterpret them to justify injustice. Instead, what we see is a patchwork of cultural norms and archaic practices that reflect the human authorship behind the text. Why didn't the Bible include a universal declaration of equality for all people? Why didn't it call for an end to violence or the establishment of systems that promote equity and well-being? These aren't small omissions, they're foundational failures. And let's not overlook the role of suffering. The Bible is often touted as a source of comfort in times of pain, but it's worth asking whether it could have prevented some of that suffering in the first place. Imagine how different history might have been if the Bible had unequivocally condemned practices like slavery, war, and systemic oppression. Imagine the lives that could have been saved if it had included basic medical advice. Instead, its ambiguities have often exacerbated human suffering rather than alleviating it. At its core, this issue highlights a larger conflict, the tension between faith and reason. Faith asks you to believe on little evidence, to trust without questioning. But reason demands that we scrutinize, analyze, and hold ideas accountable to evidence and logic. When we apply this standard to the Bible, its claims of divine authorship crumble under the weight of their own inconsistencies. If this conversation has sparked some questions, or even some discomfort, that's a good thing. Questioning is the first step toward clarity. Don't settle for easy answers or platitudes. Dive deeper, explore further, and demand evidence. Head over to Free of Faith to read the full article and join the discussion. Let's keep this conversation going, because the pursuit of truth doesn't stop at questioning. It's about finding answers that actually make sense. Thank you for tuning in to the Free of Faith podcast, where we expose the logical failings of faith and celebrate the clarity that comes with reason. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay curious, and remember, rationality always outperforms faith. Engage reality, and I'll see you soon.